Hello, everyone. Welcome to our focus forum today. Hopefully, you're having a good day and looking forward to the weekend. We'll get started in just a minute, just waiting for our attendees to come in to the session. It's a beautiful day out there. Hopefully, you'll be able to enjoy some of it as the day goes on. And I will be introducing our panelists in just a minute. I'm really looking forward to hearing about what we're doing for our workforce and thinking about growth in the future. And I think we're gonna be really delighted with what we hear. So, okay, I think we can get started. So, welcome everyone to our Focus Forum. For those of you who don't know, I'm Rita Riker, President of Focus Greater Syracuse, and really delighted to have you with us today on this spring day in December. Our topic today is building Central New York's workforce for growth, and we have several experts here who are actively pursuing this goal. Our first presenter today is Rosemary Avila, Executive Director of the Onondaga County Workforce Development Board and Career Center, or CNY Works. Rosemary, please introduce yourself and tell us what's happening at CNY Works.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. Yes, so CNY Works is our Onondaga County Workforce Development Board. So we are 1 out of 33 in the state of New York. We're 1 out of 593 in the US and territories. And we are dictated by WIOA, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. And we serve two purposes. There are two pillars within CNY Works. There's the board, where we focus on strategy, policies, and a convener of workforce development. And we have the Career Center, where we have direct delivery services, operations, and we're the one-stop. So under WIOA, we serve individuals and participants that face any challenges or barriers that want to grow within the workforce, and we're dictated by in-demand occupations list for the most part. So we focus on healthcare, education, manufacturing, construction, all the core industries that are part of Onondaga County and within the Central New York region. So we serve adults, dislocated workers, youth, individuals with disabilities, individuals on SSI or SSD, and we help them get back into the workforce, either reskilling, upskilling, offering assistance for training. We do have an enhanced supportive services policy where we are able to help individuals with bus passes, transportation, childcare, and other supportive services as long as they've exhausted those resources throughout the county. So that's a bit of what the direct delivery services does and how it's dictated under WIOA. So we here are WIOA driven, but we also like to expand in sectors. And so we have Syracuse Build under CNY Works, pardon me. And Syracuse Build is fully embedded in Syracuse and in CNY Works. I work along with the director on making sure that we're fulfilling the program and that initiative to the fullest. And so along with Syracuse Build, which is a sector base of construction, we also have a gun violence prevention program from the state. We also run the Summer Youth Employment Program from OTDA. And now we're expanding on that same program just year-long called Youth Employment Program. Most recently, we were awarded funds from Quest from New York Department of Labor, which is a US federal grant to work on infrastructure and childcare. So what we're going to do is we're going to be working and continuing on the project of I-81 and how do we continue to expand on those services, focusing on infrastructure and care economy, specifically childcare. More to come as we work getting that grant off the ground, hopefully at the beginning of next year. There's a big component of it too, where it's career exploration. So anyone that comes into our career center is welcome to receive services around workforce development. So resume writing, assistants looking for a job, workshops on all sorts of training, including financial literacy, and digital literacy and competency. So along with all those services, we also provide services to our businesses because the mission and the goal of an Onondaga Workforce Development Board is to meet the demands of the local businesses when it comes to workforce and trades and skills, and how do we train individuals to meet the current and future demands of our local economy when it comes to businesses and work. So we have a program called on-the-job training, which is we work with businesses that need skilled individuals to perform the jobs within their industry or business. And we also have incumbent worker training, and those are for the current employees that need to be certified or trained in order to stay competent in the workforce. So that's a little snapshot of everything we do here, but we always welcome our participants and our community to join our website and go there and try to find as much information. We also welcome them to come in person and get more information. Thank you. Rita, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosemary. Next up is Michael Frame, Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for the Manufacturers Association and Manufacturers Alliance of Central New York. Mike, please introduce yourself and tell us how MACNY is involved in workforce development.
Thank you so much, Rita. Just a little bit of background, if anybody isn't familiar with MACNY. MACNY is a trade association made up of industrial manufacturers as well as supply chain and other partners. We've actually been around for 110 years. We just celebrated our 110th anniversary this year. We have approximately 300 members. The breakdown is about 60% of those are industrial manufacturers, and the rest remaining are financial institutions, insurance, supply chain, and as well as other academic and economic development partners. My portfolio and my team really works a lot, almost primarily on workforce development. And within that space, we really started and have two major programs. One started in 2016, and that was a registered apprenticeship program in manufacturing trades. And so you may be familiar with registered apprenticeship within the building and construction trades. And I think Mitch might talk a little bit about that, but there's similar career pathways for individuals within manufacturing. And so we started that program as a pilot in 2016. That pilot has now grown to a program across New York State. We actually have 7 other partners across New York State, in Buffalo, Rochester, obviously here in Central New York and in the Mohawk Valley. MACNY is that partner. And then the Capital Region, the Hudson Valley, Long Island, as well as we actually have a partnership with the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce as well. So we really focus on that upskilling of incumbent workers. Rosemary talked a little bit about incumbent workers. That's primarily how manufacturing companies utilize registered apprenticeship, but we've actually seen now it growing into utilization for recruitment as well of individuals into these career pathways, especially in semiconductor and advanced manufacturing. And so I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about some of those opportunities. I'm really personally excited. I actually grew up in East Syracuse, right in between where Bristol Myers Squibb was and Carrier, and right there off of Thompson Road. I'm sure you're familiar. And within that, along with some of the other manufacturers, we had obviously seen a deindustrialization as well as an offshoring of a lot of American manufacturing. But I'd say we are incredibly enthusiastic and have seen huge growth. In fact, over the summer, the United States manufacturing career, the number of individuals employed had hit almost a 15-year high, and really was before the economic bubble of 2008, 2009. We have seen that kind of numbers for employment. But we also know that with a lot of these opportunities in advanced manufacturing, there's just not enough individuals to be able to fill those opportunities. And so we've really focused a lot of our efforts on two particular areas I just want to touch on. One, and Rosemary also talked a little bit about this, that career exploration piece, how important that is. So we have an organization that's a part of MACNY. You may have worked with them, some of you on this call, Partners for Education and Business. And we really work with school districts to provide career exploration for manufacturing, but also in other areas as well, healthcare, IT. That program now, and the team headed up by Taylor Hodges at MACNY, PEB is now in 14 school districts and in 19 schools, providing those opportunities. So that's a really exciting pathway that we've continued to focus on. The other is, in order to get individuals into registered apprenticeship programs, you really need to also make sure that you're providing opportunities for underrepresented populations in manufacturing to be able to take advantage of those. And we've been very fortunate that we received funding from Empire State Development's Office of Strategic Workforce Development to launch a pre-apprenticeship program specifically targeting women to be able to explore and learn more about careers in advanced manufacturing. And so we refer to that program as Real Life Rosies. And that program has had a lot of success. It's obviously very, we've got some great marketing around it, and people really were able to identify with the Rosie the Riveter concept now in an advanced manufacturing type of opportunity. But we've seen very strong success, and we're definitely working towards trying to now run that program in other sites. It was piloted in the Mohawk Valley, and our hope in 2024 would be able to expand it beyond just the Mohawk Valley, obviously into central New York and beyond.
Thank you, Mike. So let's move on. Mitch Latimer is our third panelist today. And Mitch is the council representative for the North Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters. So Mitch, tell us a little bit about yourself and what the Carpenters Union is doing to prepare for growth.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me be a part of this forum this week. I'm a 22-year member of the Carpenters. I actually attended the apprenticeship program and graduated in 2004. Now I am the council representative, and I represent 2,500 members locally in central New York. The Carpenters Union is committed to finding a diverse workforce and providing cutting-edge training in the state-of-the-art facilities to apprentice and journey-level carpenters seeking a strong competitive advantage in today's construction industry. By recruiting and training those who strive for excellence, we provide our signatory contractors with highly skilled, productive carpenters. We're dedicated to providing the same career opportunities and training to all those who are interested in the building trades markets in hopes of reflecting the very communities we represent. Currently, we are at, I believe, the demographics here, we've exceeded. We're at I believe a 20% right now in Syracuse, New York, which is great. So there are a few minimum things you have to do if you wanted to join the Carpenters Union. The very minimum requirements are you have to be 17 years of age, high school diploma or something equivalent, and reliable transportation. Not necessarily your own, but something to rely on to get to work, because we never tend to work in the same areas. This is commercial carpentry. After that, the first Monday of every month, we do what we call an information session that is basically the positives and the negatives of what it's like to be a commercial carpenter. That has been really successful with us in helping retain our apprentices. Once you've done that, it's about an hour to an hour and a half long session. We do that at all three of our buildings. We have one in Syracuse, Horseheads, New York, and Binghamton, New York. And you will be provided a code after that to apply to the program. And ideally, obviously, if you sat through that program, you know, we're hoping you realize at that moment whether you really want to be a part of the Carpenters or if you thought it was something that it wasn't. Once you've completed that, we will bring you in for an interview and go over, we are a New York State approved apprenticeship program. So there's some requirements for scoring that we have to follow these guidelines. You'll get placed on a rank list, and we bring you in on a needs basis at that point. So if there's a lot of construction in the area and we need more carpenters, we start bringing them in. There is no one time a year that we hire all year long. Obviously with big projects coming to the area like I-81, Micron, the STEAM school, there's a definite need right now for stuff like that. It's constant, and we want to make sure we're training the workforce and having them ready. Once you're in our program, we don't just set you free. We end up having a mentor for every new apprentice. It ends up usually being a council rep like myself. There's 10 other reps in Central New York, similar to what I do. We just broke ground less than a month ago in the Syracuse Training Center. We are doing a 12,000 square foot addition there. We have literally outgrown this space in the last 3 years. We have recruited over 400 new apprentices. In the last 5 years, our retention rate was roughly about 55%. We're running, after this new information session and the mentor program, we're at about an 84% retention rate right now, which is great. And like Mike was saying, we recently did Sisters in the Brotherhood program. So it was a pre-apprenticeship program for women only. And it was a great success. We've gotten, I believe, 5 females out of that, and all five are working currently. Trying to think what else I had. Oh, in addition to the apprenticeship program, obviously there's a need for education. So we have partnered with SUNY Sullivan out of Hudson Valley area, and they are willing to do 100% online training for any apprentices 3rd year and above, and the journey level workers as well. And they will get an associate's degree in construction management if they complete the program, 100% paid for by the membership. That includes the books and tuition. And that's where I think we're at.
Great,
Thank
thank you. Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate it. So now we're going to turn over to our questions. I'm going to add some spotlights here so you can see everybody. I'm going to hand this over to Brian Hoke, our Focus Board member, and he will be managing some questions that we've received from you. Also, if you'd like to add a question, I see there is one already in the Q&A, either in the chat or in the Q&A. Welcome to join to add additional questions. Brian.
Thanks, Rita. And thanks to all our panelists and everybody joining us today. I'll ask one of my own that summarizes some of the things that came up. And as Rita said, we have questions in advance. If you have some you'd like to pose in the Q&A or chat, please go ahead. But I looked at the pre-submitted questions. I looked at our website about this forum. And until Mitch, maybe 20 minutes in, mentioned the M word, nobody had brought up Micron, right? So it seems like that's kind of the elephant, the blue whale, the giant terrestrial animal in the room. I'm curious, not just about Micron, how it might change what you're doing, but if Micron, that's a transformative thing for our community. But it sounded like there was reason to be hopeful just outside of that huge thing for our community. How does Micron change it? And if Micron weren't here, would we still see things sort of trending up for the populations you serve, for the work that your organizations do? Happy to have anybody comment on my long-winded question.
I'm happy to start answering that question. So under Syracuse Build, we're definitely getting ready to work on Micron, and other initiatives are coming to the area. We have to admit that Micron really put us a little bit spinning faster than we anticipated. However, we did see a trend in the area because we know manufacturing as one of the in-demand occupations for the area is a core, it's a core industry that we eventually would have to focus. We just didn't anticipate the magnitude of it and how fast it would come to our area. So under Syracuse Build, yes, we're working with the trades and unions on training individuals, especially individuals with minorities, underprivileged communities, and also women, to get into these sectors, into these trades and unions. As a whole, as a CNY works and how we work with a workforce development, well, we want to convene and strategize on housing. How do we mitigate around housing and prepare that workforce for it, right? For construction. And supporting on-the-job training, supporting individuals to start having those skills, being either reskilled or upskilled, that later they can work for Micron. But really understanding that the need that Micron is bringing to our area is currently here. And I'll let Mike add more to that. Because we do have current manufacturers that are in need of workers, right? Skilled workers and entry-level workers. And so just making sure that we're working towards that industry and scaling and upskilling individuals and providing entry-level positions, but also training that would lead them to these jobs is a big project that CNY Works is working on.
Cool, thanks. Mike, did you want to comment on that?
Sure. I was going to say, I mean, I think that the interesting sort of some of the statistics and the data that we saw even prior to this amazing transformative announcement for our region was between the pandemic had already started to make a lot of shifts in terms of the labor force for our region, as we saw nationally as well. So the impact of the Great Resignation and the silver tsunami, and the fact that within manufacturing, for example, there had been a continued and I have some in here too, but a graying of the workforce meant that there was still openings and vacancies, prior to this within our region. We've also seen significant investment outside of this massive transformational investment. For example, I may mention of Bristol Myers Squibb, Lotte Biologics and their investment on that Thompson Road site is a huge opportunity, again, in manufacturing and in that advanced manufacturing and very high-tech opportunities. And so that combined, I think, with what both Rosemary and Mitch were talking about, the demands in infrastructure as well, right? The 81 project was not predicated on that particular, is not predicated on Micron per se, but right, is going to need a significant amount of skilled individuals to be able to work on that. Just to our east, Turning Stone Casino is about to do their most massive transformational project, and I'm sure a lot of Mitch's brothers and sisters will be working on that project as well. That's a $250 million investment. So wow. I think that while we've seen obviously a huge multi-billion-dollar one coming in, this is not an anomaly. We've seen growth throughout our region, and MACNY, we have members in 26 different counties, and so we've seen it across the board. But even outside of Onondaga County, we've seen a lot of demand for skilled individuals, and so that's why we've seen a tremendous amount of growth in career exploration, pre-apprenticeship pathways, and registered apprenticeship pathways, and again also a huge need to be able to provide opportunity for underserved populations and underrepresented within manufacturing to go, to find those opportunities.
That's great. And Mitch, from your end, I mean, I gotta believe Micron, in addition to other things,
yeah, absolutely,
for commercial carpenters, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the construction industry is booming right now, and obviously we can't just throw a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing on these sites. They're very dangerous sites. So we're trying our best. Like he said, like Rosemary and Mike had said, the pre-apprenticeship programs are huge right now. It's getting people acclimated on what to expect. And we are well aware of Micron, obviously. That could potentially double our membership in this area. We can't take everyone off the job sites that are existing to go work on Micron. So there's a lot of things in the works for us too. We're looking at different ways with the migrant worker boom coming this way. We want to make sure a lot of them don't have some of the minimum requirements it takes to get into the unions, like their high school diploma and stuff like that. So we're coming up with programs. We're in the works right now, trying to figure out a way, maybe we can give them a year to 2 years to get a GED or something equivalent so that they can get in our program, working with the New York State Department of Labor. We're also trying to lessen the requirements for journey. Right now it's a 4-to-1 ratio, journey level person with an apprenticeship person. We want to try and lessen that, because typically, regardless of what the ratio is, they're always working one-on-one an apprentice will always work one-on-one with another journey level person. So there's all sorts of things, barriers we're trying to break down to make sure that we can meet the needs that are coming our way.
Cool. That's great. I mean, it sounds hopeful, I mean, something our region doesn't always have a long history of in recent years. So that's great. Nice to hear all
No,
that from all y'all.
it's great. And obviously we just recently had that, was it 3.8 million square foot Amazon built just down the street too.
That's cool. We had a question sent in advance from Jason about, he asked about technology barriers, what skills don't otherwise qualified people have. And I would expand that, extrapolate that a little bit. How is it different now than 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago? I imagine there are more technological skills needed to perform in any of the sort of professions which you three all serve, but curious to hear from you all about what's lacking in technology, what are the opportunities that folks with those skills have, or anything you have to say in that area, please.
I'll chime in. So New York Department of Labor just concluded one of their surveys, business services, employee services. And what they gathered was the need of digital literacy amongst the skill within the employees. It was just really basic computer skills. So Excel, email, Word, typing. And some of these jobs do require these skills more than others, but I think as we become more into the digital era into different sectors, we're going to see the need of individuals having a basic skill of proficiency in these areas. And so I know that someone else had asked a question of that works in the library and how can they support this mission? One of the things I would suggest is to enhance, if not a digital literacy, basic computer skills training, and even explore the opportunity of providing internships for these individuals or practice or hands-on during these trainings, because that's really going to enhance the confidence of the individuals once they're in the workforce and even before coming here. So at CNY Works, we do provide workshops around finding computer literacy and digital. But if this is something that could be available to individuals everywhere, right? If they're going to the local library and this is something they're able to enroll and practice, we highly encourage and suggest that option.
Cool. And Mike, certainly PEB and other areas of MACNY work do a lot of training, right? I mean, must be part and parcel of some of your work.
Absolutely. I was going to say that Real Life Rosie's program I was talking about, that's a 12-week course, and there's 2 separate days, and one of those 2 days focuses entirely on power skills, and digital literacy is a huge component of that. As we continue to get into the next, the 4th industrial revolution, you have to really think about that the role of computers, of artificial intelligence, of within the manufacturing process is only going to continue to grow. I think even within the skilled trades, we'll start to see the idea of cobots working alongside individuals and with certain processes to be able to do that. So I think the way in which humans interact with machines will only continue to grow. If you were to go to Wolfspeed, a silicon carbide semiconductor fab in the Mohawk Valley, and were to go there, you'll see not a lot of individuals working directly in the clean rooms. The vast majority are working at a terminal on various processes within that manufacturing process. I don't think we're going to see a de-emphasis on it. So I think it's finding opportunities for humans to be able to learn those skills alongside. There'll always be an element, but that work will change. And we've already started to see that. So it is critically important in making sure that we're providing those opportunities and that continued opportunity for growth. But Brian, the other piece in the learning space as well, you're right, the pandemic exacerbated the digital divide, and those who were able to get instruction, for example, you have to be able to have both access to those tools as well as an understanding of how to use them. So I think what Rosemary brought up is critically important to that space.
And Mitch, for Carpenters, I gotta believe technology has changed things, right? I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually doing more hours of work than ever with less carpenters due to the technology. You know, you can now lay out a building with a GPS unit compared to having somebody running around with a tape measure and, you know, 3 guys holding the tape measure, making sure it's at the right point and stuff like that. Laser levels. There's all sorts of new technology that's coming out every day that we have to stay on top of that makes us very competitive. And not only for that, but for the learning as well. As I was talking about earlier, we're seeing a high migrant worker rate come this way. And in order to teach them and make them skilled carpenters and learn, we have come up with, there's a program where they can actually listen to us in our classrooms in their native language. So they punch it in into this machine and somehow it transfers everything right to them. It's actually pretty great. That I got to use it out in Boston last year to try it out, and it was actually very interesting. So we're always coming up with different ways, and it's all based on technology.
Interesting. Cool. We had quite a few questions about reaching younger folks, and I think all of you addressed that in your introductory remarks, but curious to hear a little bit more about how do you get to people, right? How do you get to younger people? How do you support them in a career track that maybe there are things that a middle school student takes in his classroom that leads them on this career path? How do you get them excited about it, right? I mean, there's a huge emphasis on you got to go to college, you got to go to college, but that's not for everybody, and certainly many of the jobs, careers that you all support don't require it or might not be best served by somebody. I'm interested in how you all reach younger folks and bring them into the pipeline. Mitch, why don't we start? You've been last every time. I'll ask you first if I may.
Okay, so currently we just switched our training schedule here in all 3 buildings is now a 4 10-hour day schedule. So it's Monday through Thursday. Fridays we leave open for what we call Shop Fridays. All the local schools in the area, we do different events with them to bring them through all their different programs, even some of the middle schools. We do a hands-on, different types of construction, whatever it may be, whether it be concrete formwork, clean rooms, just hanging sheetrock, anything like that. We let them just pound nails just to get a hands-on and excited. They're young, they're excited, they want to do different things, especially hands-on. I think that's been a really big hit. We call it Shop Fridays here. And we do go to different schools and speak to the students. We do all sorts of career fairs in the area.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Rosemary or Mike, either you want to come in on that? No? Okay.
I was gonna let Rosemary, you can go. I do have something, but I was gonna let Rosemary go first.
Okay, very good. Rosemary, go ahead, please.
So we have quite a few programs. So we have the work experience under WIOA. So that is where we pay youth ages 16 to 24 to work in any industry and get the firsthand to explore what that job would look like. Again, we are of the belief that career pathway we support it, but not necessarily knowing that a career following university, 4-year program, traditional university is for everyone. So we do provide the options of working with their trades, MACNY, on offering different trainings that they have and referring younger folks there so they know, what the benefits are and what a career pathway looks like. One thing we do try to emphasize at CNY Works is that given, that notion that education and higher education is not for everyone, even if they go through a non-traditional pathway, there's always that option to obtain that experience and transfer that experience to a university or college level. So we do try to have that in mind when our workforce advisors are speaking to our participants. So we have the work experience, and then we have career exploration that we do through virtual reality and other tools that we have here. And then we have the summer youth employment program that it's well known in our community to place youth in work experience, but also in activities related to workforce. There's financial literacy, other sorts of trainings that will lead them to these non-traditional pathways. And then finally, Syracuse Build. We're recently working with the city of Syracuse to replicate pathways to apprenticeship for youth. So working with Syracuse School District on the career and technical education programs, and how do we start up those talks with youth at either middle school or high school about the non-traditional career pathways.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rosemary.
A-
Go ahead.
And just, I was going to say, and just to add on to that, so I talked a little bit about our Partners for Education and Business, a couple of the other programs that we're focused on, in addition to partnering on the CTEs, which, as Rosemary mentioned, is so critically important, and similarly what Mitch was talking about as well, to be able to provide those shop Fridays. So October is manufacturing month, which is nice because it's sort of kind of at the start of the school year. And within that, we have multiple manufacturers who open up their doors to local school districts, and we help to allow students to be able to do those tours. A lot of times, right, it's that initial exposure. If you've never been in a modern factory, you don't really necessarily know what one looks like. So that's a huge opportunity. And then we have programming following that as well. We also partner with the Most for a Future Women in STEM program that we have once a month to be able to provide exposure as well. Girls who are in middle school. They did just launch that, and they have that huge Micron exhibit, which is incredible. We also just launched though a Machines and Makers right below the Micron exhibit at the Most. We just launched that last month, again, for that exposure piece to manufacturing, the skills and what's, and the products that are made and what the tools look like, some of the robots, for example, so that younger students can have exposure to that as well. But Brian, I do think the point I just want to make to this is that sometimes, especially parents, feel like, I think, Mitch, you probably see this as well, a hesitancy for their child to want to enter into a apprenticeship program or directly enter the workforce because we've done such a good job as a society of saying college for all. What I think I would sort of put a big asterisk next to that is, like, are those opportunities, but it doesn't have to be right now. And when we think about continuous learning, so it could be college, just not right now. And so I think apprenticeship programs are one that I feel very strongly provide those opportunities and pathways for continuous and lifelong learning. Some community colleges have apprenticeship programs that they're engaged with to earn credit and can actually lead to associate's degrees and beyond. And we've started to see individuals want to take advantage of that so that they can get those degrees as well. But I think it is, you're very, you're 100% right. I think only about 50% of the workforce, I saw some statistics over the summer, gets their training outside of the college classroom, for example, as they enter into their careers, that high. So it's really not an alternate pathway. I'd say it's a parallel pathway at this point. But that includes registered apprenticeship certificates, credentialing, and as well as, for example, military service is another, underrepresented population in manufacturing, for example. And I'm sure that the skilled trades do the same, of looking for individuals who are leaving military service and being able to provide pathways for those individuals as well. So I think it's exciting because there are a lot of opportunities. And I'd say that New York State has been very generous in its support of some of those programs. I think the federal government as well, and some of the WIOA programs, for example, are really helpful in helping to build that. But when people ask what's the greatest challenge that we're facing for people to enter into these high needs positions, I'd say a lot of times it's the parents. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't at least throw a plug in there that it's
Societal
not
norms and sure.
Yeah, right. It's not that your child isn't going to go to college. It's that maybe not right now. And there's little to no debt associated with any of these programs that we're talking about.
Yeah, and as you said, as Rosemary, you said about, it doesn't mean you don't ever go, but I got to believe those skills that one picks up of reliability and mastering a craft or a trade, if you do get a 4-year degree or a master's degree or a PhD, those got to be really valuable things to employers, regardless of what your future career is. But I'm sorry, Rosemary, did I cut you off?
Yeah, no, I just want to add on a great point that Mike just mentioned, and it's bringing the parents to these conversations, right? So, I've seen this quite a bit in manufacturing and trades, right? The child may have the greatest idea and initiative to go into trades or even explore something around manufacturing, but once that child has that conversation with the parent, right, it gets redirected to, no, you have to go to traditional 4-year degree. And so we would like to have parents more involved in the conversation, something that our workforce advisors are working with the school counselors is bringing to the table the parents and explain to them. And, you know, and I think in the future, there's definitely room for CNY Works to partner with MACNY on having an events where parents are part of it, right? Informing the parents of the benefits, the career pathways of individuals going into advanced manufacturing. And how does that lay out in the future if the child wants to go or the youth wants to go into a 4 or 5 year degree? You know, what does that translate to? And it doesn't have to be now. There's always opportunity in the future for it, but knowing the benefits of having those skills and that experience at the beginning.
I'm curious, and I'm not channeling anybody else. I'm just asking on my own accord because I got the microphone and I get to. Does entrepreneurship come into this? That folks, you know, start out as a carpenter and start their own company, and eventually, hey, you know, she or he's employing 50 people and making a nice living, or in other. I mean, I gotta believe that's part of
Yeah,
it.
it happens quite often. The contractor I first worked for out of Rochester, New York, he was an apprentice in the program and started his own business, got a chance with one of the contractors that he had been working along side by side, and they had a need for an interior subcontractor, worked hand in hand with him and built him right up. And that happens occasionally. It definitely happens. They have quite a few options, whether they become superintendents for large companies and travel, or start their own business. It's definitely a good possibility and a nice pathway.
Hey. We had quite a few questions come in about broader issues, right? So a living wage, finding housing, transportation disparities. Not much you can do about all those things, but I'm curious, do you say, well, our work is focused and we do great work and it stops here? Or is it advocacy? Is it government relations? Is it that's beyond our scope? Those other issues that affect folks who want to, I mean, you all mentioned it, and it's great to hear, right? That trying to serve underserved populations, women, people of color, new Americans. But I'm curious what you do, if anything, and what challenges it presents that, boy, we need more workers, but they can't find a place to live. Or, you know, these places need employees, but they can't pay them. And I don't know, I'm just curious how those issues in my poorly formed question come up in your work.
I can say that in the Carpenters Union recently, last year, so an apprentice, it's a 4-level apprentice program.
Mhm.
So they would start off, up until last year, they would start off at 55% of the journey level rate. We just increased that to 65% to help them on that starting wage. So each tier now jumped up another 10%. So
To bring people in.
yeah, to help retain them. We're always looking for that. What is it going to take to help them get to where they need to be and start their career?
Interesting. And you mentioned that transportation is a deal breaker, right? You got to be able to get to the job.
Yeah, they've got to be able to get to the job, but we're always looking at different possibilities with that. CNY Works was always involved in that. They have some great programs through the Syracuse Build Pathways program. There's a car program. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but we've had a few of the apprentices from Syracuse Build that joined our union that have taken advantage of that. It's a great program.
That's great. Rosemary, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so on the Syracuse Build, it's a program with the collaborative organization on individuals being able to access vehicles or even purchase vehicles once they're on the job. So it's a program that they have. On the CNY Works aspect of it, we have the supportive services. So we're able to provide assistance for individuals for car repair, provide bus passes, and even purchase a bicycle if they're eligible under training or eligible under wheel and they've exhausted all other resources in the community. So we have a very comprehensive, enhanced program and services around helping individuals with transportation, but also with childcare, because we understand the challenges of not having childcare, wanting to go back into the workforce, especially for women.
Wow. And Mike, I'm sorry, did you want to come in on?
Yeah, I was gonna say, one of the interesting things I referred to that Office of Strategic Workforce Development program through Empire State Development. Part of the funds that are available in their pay for performance program are supportive services. So for the Real Life Rosies program that I've referred to a couple times, we actually are able to provide supportive services, including transportation and childcare during the time that the individuals are in the classes. And that's the partnership we have with Rosemary's equivalent in the Mohawk Valley Working Solutions, the Workforce Investment Board for the Mohawk Valley. And so that has been a critical element. I will say that one of the very interesting things about the federal legislation that led to Micron's investment at the Clay site was the federal CHIPS and Science Act. And as a part of the application process for the federal funding, a strategy specifically focused on childcare has to be a part of that. And if everyone who's sort of watched Micron's initial investments in the community, they have already heavily invested and are participating in programs directly related to the childcare portion, understanding how critically important that is to a more inclusive workforce in particular. And one of the high level officials at Micron is a part of Rosemary's board. And so I think that is really a deep understanding of that. But like I said, the federal legislation actually saw that. So this is a case where the government has helped to come in to recognize that. And so it's a conversation that's consistently talked about, as well as I'd say other housing being another one that I know that the county executive, for example, has heavily looked at as the need for more housing as a part of this, that there's a significant lack of housing and of course of affordable housing for these new opportunities. And so we're at the beginning of this marathon, right? And we're not, so I think there's a lot of opportunity, but all of these challenges, I think the right people are coming together to be able to explore all of these impacts, because we would say to Mitch, at the same time we need 1,100 carpenters to work on the megafab project, we also need another 2,500 houses built a year. Who's going to do the same? That's the same talent pool. So I think that's all of these conversations are. It's not that there's in an echo chamber. I think we're coming together and we're having those conversations as a community to be able to do that. And that's a positive.
That's great. Well, we're coming up on time, but I'd like to pose to each of you two final questions. If you could wave a magic wand and reduce one barrier that gets in the way of your organization's mission, of what you're trying to accomplish, what would you wand away? And secondly, in 5 years, what successes do you see? What trends in the right direction, regardless of whether you could magic wand away the challenge? But I'm just curious about what would you fix if you could, and money was no object and political realities were no object? And then secondly, where do you think we are in 5 years in a good way? And I threw those at you without any preparation. So I'll let anybody start that cares to, please.
Well, I want to start it, and it's just,
Please.
with WIOA, right? So we know the limitations of WIOA, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. This is why most boards do go after discretionary funds to be able to supplement the restrictions of WIOA. So if I had a magic wand, I would just ask to revise and update WIOA to reflect our current workforce barriers and needs in each of the local communities. So that's one. Excuse me. And what do I see in 5 years? And growing, I feel like the need for what's trending now, what are we embarking on is just it's gonna be in a larger scale, and understanding, that it's gonna take time, but that we'll get there. I'm feeling very optimistic, like Mike said, the right individuals are coming to the table and having these discussions and realizing that, we need to get a little bit more innovative and creative of how we're doing things, and just be willing to explore and give it a try.
Great, cool. Mike or Mitch?
For me, it'd be cars or some sort of transportation for anyone and everyone. And in 5 years, I'm dreaming that my membership has doubled and we've met all the construction needs and I can actually sleep at night.
From your
Right
lips.
now,
That's good.
yeah, we're a little nervous about it, but we're preparing as much as we can.
That's great. And Mike?
I made mention of it a little bit before, but I think that if I could wave the magic wand for that open-mindedness of parents and school districts and others, for example, to really fully engage. I think we've seen some great strides, but for everyone to be open to pursuing these opportunities that can be incredibly rewarding careers, and not to think of it as a that somehow their child is not getting their full fair shake. I think any of the trades or the opportunities we've talked about are high wage and have the potential for lifelong opportunity. And I think that's incredibly important. So I would say that particular space, I think the CNY STEAM school is a great start to that, for example, that was just announced last week. That groundbreaking, that has a huge opportunity to be that. So in 5 years, I see even more embedded pathways starting at high school, for example, to be able to put individuals into these opportunities, as well as curriculum and space within existing higher education institutions as well, to be able to put people directly thinking about those opportunities, to put people directly into these types of jobs.
Cool. Well, thanks. Thanks to all three of you. It's hopeful. Sounds like things are moving along. That's great to hear. Rita, I'll turn it over back to you.
Well, thank you so much, Rosemary, Mitch, Mike. Wonderful presentations. We appreciate you sharing with us today and participating. And Brian, as always, great job on the Q&A. So thank you very much. And thank you to our audience. I hope you found this interesting. I know I did for sure. And it's with all of our forums, we have recorded this and we will be putting it on our it'll be on our website, focussyracuse.org. So feel free to send others to give it a listen. And also, while you're on the website, we're always happy to take a donation here or there. We're a very small organization and rely on public support. So always have to give that dig there a little bit. Other than that, thanks again so much for everybody. Have a great weekend. Enjoy this beautiful weather and happy holidays to all. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the invitation.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you, everyone.